Attention. Welcome to the Different Spectrums podcast. We dive into the wild world of mental health discussions. Get ready for profound talks, a sprinkle of humor and sarcasm, and a touch of colorful language. Just a quick heads up, our show reflects our individual opinions, which may not align with the standpoint of the podcast, our featured guests, or any related corporate entities. Our mission? To illuminate through laughter and satire because everyone needs a good chuckle. Chill out and don't stress over the small stuff. Legal troubles? No, thank you. Cancel culture? Please spare us. We'd rather keep this space lawsuit free. So buckle up, have a good time, and join us as we navigate the vibrant realm of mental health on the Different Spectrums podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. By using our link, you can get 10% off your first month of therapy. So, Naz, as a therapist on BetterHelp, what has your experience been like?
I've been doing it since January 2021, and it's been really fun and exciting. I've been able to reach clients all over the United States and the world. I've had good relationships. I've had folks that I've had for a couple months and a good handful where I've had for almost 2 years now. So it's magnificent. I've enjoyed my time and my clients. I love them.
Awesome. You can do it all from your phone or computer via phone call, video chat, or messaging, however you feel the most comfortable. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/DSP or choose Different Spectrums podcast during sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. Hey everybody, we back again.
Hey, we're back. We're live.
I'm Spencer, and that's our licensed clinical therapist, Nas.
Dr. Nas. Big boy Nas.
Every time you give me with how you say that. Remember, don't take us too seriously.
Or do. That's completely up to you.
Don't forget to run up those likes for us. We'd really appreciate it. So, before we get into it, we have a new guest today. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist, also a licensed professional counselor in Texas. She has her perinatal mental health certification through Postpartum Support International. She's also a mother, wife, author, blogger, speaker, podcaster, and coach. Heidi McBain, welcome to the show.
So happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
You're happy now.
Yeah. Long ass title. No, I was
playing. I'm embarrassed now.
Yeah. What else you do? Jesus Christ.
It was on your website. Just saying.
You told us to say this, Heidi.
Super embarrassed.
Yeah. Sent an email. It was all caps. Okay. Anyways, thank you for being on the show. We appreciate your, not your humor. It is hot in my room, so I'm gonna be sweating up through this. Anyways, hey, before we get into it, be a man. Talk.
Or cry. Or love.
Or love. Yes. Love. Cry. There it is. God, I'm never gonna get that. So, anyways, story time before we get into the show. Nas?
You didn't even talk about what we were gonna talk about.
I will get into it.
Should I introduce the topic?
Yeah. We'll get into it. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
So, as a prelude to today is a Mother Day's episode, even though this won't release until next month.
Yep, it was a really good scheduling there.
On Father's Day, this will release.
That's right.
On Father's Day.
It on Father's Day
because we know all the real mothers out there are actually fathers.
All of the above.
All the above, technically. Yeah, a lot of parents are all the above. Doesn't matter what gender, you're doing everything. Everyone's doing everything now. Life's too hard not to be doing one role. Yeah. But we're doing a podcast on a bunch of different things when it comes to newborns, children, raising them, postpartum. And so we're excited to have you on as a guest. I want to take a little minute of story time and making sure folks that are mindful in these things. I know this will come out, a month from now, 4 weeks from now, but still, appreciate the humans that are in your life. Me and Spencer we do a lot of podcasts on relationships, families, loved ones. We've done a lot on death, sadness, community, a lot on community. Someone that's lost their mother, cancer, brain cancer. And it was very quick, diagnosed, couple months, gone. Appreciate the people that are around you. As I talk to my coworkers as we get older and older, there's a lot of people dying these days from different things, cancers. You get to this age and you start to really be mindful on who you have around you. So make sure you're telling people that you love them. Pay your respects to your mothers out there on this Mother's Day, on Father's Day. You should do this more often. I know it could be hard when your mom says, I love you, and you're just looking at them like, I don't want to say it. Just say it. Because you don't want to leave, and then let's say you go on a bus ride, something happens. You go to school, something happens. So end it on a good note. I tell this all my clients, end it on a good note, right? You don't need to be leaving your partner and you both hate each other. Because what if? So for all of those of you that don't have any mothers right now because things have happened and they've passed away, my heart goes out to you. Hopefully you're taking the time to pay respect to them, but also take care of yourself on this hard day, and then also Father's Day coming up. So appreciate Heidi being here with us, and she's going to teach us some stuff. We're going to have some fun. Yes, but rest in peace, Melva Guerra. So let's get into the pod. Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
She over here appropriating us now, Spence. Ain't that some shit?
They always do it, goddamn.
Leave it up to the white women. Joke.
Just get on the show. Just like, you're white. Like, yeah, you booked me as a white person.
You wanted this. I did.
God.
All right. All right, let's do it. Okay, so that was it.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to end it with a little funny laugh, right? Because I didn't want people to be super emotional.
Yes, don't sit in your emotions. That's terrible.
Well, I also don't feel like fucking crying before the pod, so.
Well, you brought up. Oh, never mind.
I know I brought it up because it was the right thing to do. I actually said her name too. It's like, oh God.
Yeah, you're doing it to yourself at this point.
I know. Well, no one does it like I do myself.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the show.
Jesus.
Dr. Mason's office.
Miss Zod, it's nice to officially meet you.
Please call me Elizabeth.
I am so very sorry for your loss. Evans was a good man and a good rower. You should come rowing with us as soon as you're ready. You're not exactly getting out there in this condition.
I've been erging.
Good God.
Is that bad? Calvin built an erg.
Well, yes, I would imagine he would, but it's just I've never heard of anyone erging on purpose. How far are you erging?
About 10,000 meters a day.
I've always thought pregnant women develop an extra capacity for suffering, but that'll certainly prepare you for childbirth. Well, it all looks good on your charts, but why in God's name has it taken you so long to come in? You're in your last trimester.
Well, I had sort of hoped that it would just take care of itself.
Miss Sott, do you have someone you can lean on? A friend or a relative? Your mother? Someone?
I have a dog.
Dogs can be good companions.
And a neighbor that I sort of know.
A dog, a neighbor you sort of know, and an erg. Excellent. As soon as you're able, I want to see you down at the boathouse. I realize it may take some time, let's say a year. My boat's been looking for the right two-seat, and something tells me you're it. In the meantime, try to relax and get some sleep. Soon, sleep is going to seem like a distant memory.
Your daughter is just fine.
You drugged me.
You're welcome. Do you need to urinate?
No, I do not.
For the next few weeks, it will likely feel like the fire of 1,000 suns each time you go, but that will fade. And then you'll likely notice some urinary incontinence, but that usually resolves itself after a year or so. Now, why don't I go get your baby girl? By the way, what's her name?
Hadn't thought about it.
I always tell new mothers not to overthink it. A name is a name. Or if you're really stuck, just go with what you feel right now.
Mad.
Oh, lovely. I have a niece named Maddie.
No. Just mad.
Oh. Hello. Okay.
Let's go inside, thank you. What is the #1 rule about outdoor games?
Do not step mud into the house.
Right. Linda, we're having dinner.
Hi. She won't eat. My doctor suggested formula, but there's a study out of Colombia that suggests that breast milk is the singular conduit for antibodies from mother to infant. Not to mention that breastfeeding releases oxytocin, but I just don't think that oxytocin is going to help us when she dies of starvation. And I have so much to do, and I can't do a to-do list because then there's one more thing to do.
I'm exhausted just listening to you.
Oh, God. I'm so sorry. I'm not myself. I can leave. It's fine.
I am making tea in the kitchen anyway. Does anybody need anything?
No,
I'm
thanks.
fine.
I can go. I'm fine.
Yeah, you seem great.
I've tried to get her on a schedule. I've been meticulous about timing. I've been monitoring every cry, every bowel movement. I've been trying various positions and angles, light levels. What at all is funny about this?
You are so much like him. So incredibly smart and so stupid.
Excuse me?
She's a baby. She's not a controlled science experiment.
No. I just don't think that you understand. I didn't want this, and now I don't think I'm feeling the way that I'm supposed to be feeling.
Oh, you mean that the way her smile cures your swollen abdomen and the excruciating pain in your nipples? Because you weren't even a whole person until you met her, right?
Yeah, that.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Complete fiction.
No. Moms love their children. It's in their biology. It's just my biology is making me have terrible thoughts in my head.
What kind of thoughts? You could say it.
Like, what if I just gave her away?
Hey, Agnes. How many times did you think about giving Bailey up when he was brand new?
Why? Is somebody offering?
Purely for research purposes.
The answer is twice a day.
My breaking point with Linda, day 6.
So, you're saying at some point Matt and I will have a relationship built on mutual love and respect?
Matt? Is it Madeline? Is that a family name?
No, the nurse just told me to name her what I felt.
You're kidding. I should have named my kid Scared and Exhausted.
I will say it's very nice to talk to another adult instead of just hearing blood-curdling screams.
Let me take a look at this baby. Okay. Hello, Matt. Oh, you're so good, aren't you? Yes, you are. You know, you'd be surprised how much you can learn about a baby at this stage. They're constantly revealing their future selves in the smallest of ways. And this one, she can read a room.
I was just thinking about your dad. He used to say that jazz taught him how to think, how to sit and let the ideas carry him where they may. He had a lot of notions and dance moves. Wait, do you think that's funny?
Slum residence.
Listen to this. Mad?
What exactly am I supposed to be hearing?
She was just laughing. Is that even normal for a child her age? Oh, I think she might be quite advanced, unsurprisingly.
I just hope she gets her parents' characteristic humility.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching our show today. We just wanted to take some time to give a special shout out to our collaborator, Cat and Raven Design. They are a small queer-owned business that specializes in LGBTQ plus pride soaps. They have great designs, some that even look good to eat, but don't. You can get 10% off your entire order if you use the code DSP or go to our link tree. Help support this great small business and help give back to a great community. And we back again.
We're back. And we're live. Just like, I can't think of nothing but toes. I'm sorry. I don't know why.
What are you talking about?
I can't. I'm sorry. I went straight pervert. Sorry. I have toes.
What is wrong? What is wrong with you?
I couldn't think of. I thought of a frog because I was watching these frogs earlier today, and then immediately went to toes. Let's get into the show.
Autism.
Autism.
Autism. Anyways, before we get into the show, lessons in chemistry. Like I said, we have a guest on today. Heidi, welcome to the show. Happy Mother's Day. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday.
Thank you.
Your Sunday.
This is your Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah.
My
yeah.
day.
You notice how they don't put Mother's Day on Super Bowl or any other football Sunday. Notice that. Just saying. America. All right. Anyways. So like I said, you are a marriage and family therapist. You're also a licensed professional counselor in Texas. How did your journey to being a certified therapist actually kind of come about?
Wow. Okay. We're going way back.
Oh, yeah.
I've been in this field quite a while, so we'll go way back. Yeah, I was always interested in helping people, and I thought originally I was going to be a doctor, and so I went in as pre-med, as many people do in college, and couldn't get into the chemistry class I needed, and ended up in intro to psych, and sort of felt like I was coming home. And from there on out, kind of took all psych classes and felt like it was a ticket to grad school. So went to University of San Diego for marriage and family therapy. Started out working with kids and teens early in my career, and then took some time off when I started my family. I have a daughter who's now 18 and a son who's 15. And after my time off, I kind of switched directions, I think, because my kind of journey into motherhood wasn't easy. Took a while to get pregnant, had a traumatic birth with my first, had a really late miscarriage between my two kids, had a lot of heightened anxiety with my second pregnancy with my son. The birth with him was fine, but we had some medical stuff come up when he was really young, like a trip to the emergency room when he was 3 weeks old. I mean, just some really hard things that really led to heightened postpartum anxiety.
For sure.
That most of that first year. And so I think a lot of us that, just had a really hard kind of start into motherhood. When I was looking to go back to work, my interests changed and I felt like I had a lot more to offer in the motherhood space. And so
Yeah.
after the time off I took when my kids were young, I took a lot of classes through Postpartum Support International and got my perinatal mental health certification and launched an online business that really focuses on pregnant and postpartum moms and trying to break down all the barriers to treatment. People come with screaming babies and all the things, and we work with all of that. So that was kind of my bumpy road to where I am today.
The kids are good now? Kids are healthy now, the two?
Yeah. Healthy, thriving.
Good.
2 teenagers, so always something going on for my husband. And that's
the worst.
Keeps us on our toes. Yeah.
I want to drive now, Mom. What? You're 5. I can't.
Yeah, always something.
That's awesome. So what made you want to do family and marriage therapy, if you don't mind me asking?
I really, it's interesting. At first I thought it was going to be really dynamic, just having all these people in the room.
Yeah.
And what I realized pretty early on in my practicum was it was overwhelming and people were arguing and, there was a lot of stress. And so when I left school with my degree, I really felt like the one-on-one was a better fit. Like I did a lot of play therapy and I worked with teens kind of early in my career, but that like the marriage and family background, you could see the whole picture a little bit better. And so that was helpful kind of early on. And then it's helpful now because it's like, even though I'm seeing women one-on-one, you're still bringing in that whole picture of the family, the marriage, any other kids, that they might have, extended family issues. That tends to come up a lot.
How long have you been focused just on pregnancy and prenatal stuff? How long have you been focused more on that niche on new mothers?
I would say, gosh, probably 7 or 8 years now that I've been doing this specifically.
I would assume this is it. Like when you said the psych classes, like this is home now. I assume this niche.
Oh yeah. Yeah. This niche feels like it. Yeah, I really love it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. Kind of want to get a little bit into just kind of the show in general and you.
Sure.
So did you really have because you just kind of talked about kind of the bumpy road as to parenthood.
Yeah.
So did you feel like you were really connected with Brie Larson's character in this, or how'd you kind of feel?
Yeah. Well, I read the book first and I felt like the author just really got just so much of what happens, right? And kind of pregnancy, birth, postpartum. There's this underlying grief piece because of the loss of her partner.
Right.
And so, I felt like the author really got it. And then when I watched the show, I felt like the show really got it too. Sometimes it's not a great transfer between the book and the show or movie.
Right.
But this time I felt like it was very well cast and that they just really got these nuanced pieces, right, with the stressors during a pregnancy and especially a pregnancy without a partner and an unexpected pregnancy. And then, a birth that had some trauma because, it wasn't how she wanted it to go. And then so many stressors in postpartum. And then again, she doesn't have a partner, right? So she's looking towards, neighbors, and she's having to look towards other places for connection.
Yeah. I ask you for what is postpartum? Like, what is that?
Good question.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. So the way I was trained, it's the first year of after the birth of a baby. It's the first year. It's interesting because occasionally, like, I'll have people come in and say, oh, my doctor, my midwife, my provider actually stretches it to longer. So, so I was trained that it's, we're really looking at the first year, but I think, some providers are looking at it even being a longer period of time, right? And they're really looking at, hormonal changes in there too. And so I think there's an interesting medical side where maybe that's going to change at some point. It's maybe going to be kind of bigger than what we're looking at mental health wise. But, even with clients, it's like they don't all come in, during like pregnancy or postpartum. So it is interesting. Like sometimes people will come in later and then you'll backtrack and see, oh, isn't that interesting? This stuff was actually showing up during a pregnancy or during postpartum, but it got missed or it was kind of under the radar. And so sometimes we're kind of backtracking, kind of help people work
what's
through,
going on
and maybe see that differently.
So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit now. So you given us the time frame on the postpartum. Well, you know, what the hell is it? What are the symptomologies of this? As I talked about, a lot of women identifying folks that listen to us that I'm sure they know what it is, but maybe they don't. Maybe they're not expecting to have children. Maybe they're not in relationships right now. But for those listening and some of the men that will be listening to, what is this postpartum? I know everyone just saw it in the scenes, but what the hell is it?
Yeah. So it's funny. So when most people talk about postpartum, they're talking about postpartum depression.
Okay.
And they just kind of, they kind of shorten it to postpartum. But we can be talking about many things. We can be talking about postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, postpartum PTSD.
You know that.
Postpartum psychosis, right? Like there's a lot of things that can show up in here. So, often people will come in and they'll say, I'm suffering, I don't feel like myself. And then we're really trying to get into the symptoms. So with postpartum depression, I think what's so interesting, especially with clients that have had depression kind of outside of the perinatal period, is that they're thinking, oh, I should be a certain way if I'm depressed. Maybe, I'm in bed all day or, I'm not functioning very well. But it often shows up more as like anger or agitation. Irritability. Sometimes people not connecting with their baby or not feeling connected to their partner. Or they'll come in and just say, like, I just don't feel like myself. And then we kind of get into it. And it's like, okay, that does sound like maybe some postpartum depression symptoms. And then some of the other things, when we're screening for depression, you're looking at sleep, you're looking at energy level, you're looking at eating, like you're looking at some stuff that, in early postpartum, that's going to be out of whack anyway. I mean, really can be, depending on how somebody's baby is sleeping, it could be the entire first year, right? Where they're not sleeping well or they're struggling to remember to eat, and not having energy and stuff. So I think that's why it often shows up more as like agitation, irritability, anger, even rage. Sometimes people come in and be like, I'm usually a pretty chill person and I feel like I just want to be raging at everybody in my life. It's like, okay, let's talk about that.
So do they actually rage out on people or do they keep it in? Or do you feel like some of them do externalize it?
Yeah, I would say it depends on the person. I mean, often I would say if they have a partner, it's often taken out on the partner. And so sometimes I'll get calls from partners saying, I think something's going on with my wife. She just had a baby, and we'll talk through. And, she may have postpartum depression, maybe have her reach out to her doctor and see if we can get her screened. But I think because it's, like the label is depression, we think of it differently in society. And so I think that's what can be really confusing in postpartum, or even during pregnancy too, right? Sometimes the symptoms show up even earlier, is that it doesn't show up typically in the way it would show up outside of the perinatal period. There's much more anger, agitation, irritability.
Okay.
Often. Not for everybody.
I had a random question
too, but
random question here, Spence. Have you seen any folks that not just neurodivergent, but like maybe are identified as autistic? Or do you know that if they've been diagnosed autistic and then how they've dealt with postpartum? Because many of my friends, best friends, and many of the folks that have been on this podcast are autistic. And, everyone's having babies now. And
Yeah.
pretty much all of them have had some type of postpartum, whether it be the depression, the not being able to connect. The C-section messed a lot of folks up because it had to be, labor had to be induced. Some of my friends, they can't breastfeed. And so that's a whole thing.
That's a huge one.
Huge thing. And that leads to all these other different things that are going on with their bodies, and they can't walk and function and wrists. And so I've seen a lot of my homegirls extremely depressed. And, the dad's stepping up, right? And so even the best friend right now, the dad's stepping up, he's a magnificent dad. But his magnificence being a dad, I can tell directly affects his spouse. Because the kid goes right to the dad. And my best friend, he thought I had a heart attack before the baby was there a couple times because he thought he was going to be a piece of shit as a father. And it turns out he's the most magnificent human that there is.
Yeah.
But his awesomeness, like I said, is impacting the mom. And so I was there talking with him and her, right, trying to work through this and like, hey, man, this is why I think she's acting like this. And she also has the anxiety. Some of my other friends had that anxiety. I guess I didn't realize that heightened anxiety because they're in fear for their kid or they're not doing this right. And so she shows that in the show. Well, I'm clocking all this and that, and they're crying the bowel movements, right? And so some of my friends are doing that. I can just tell they're going so OCD and so overwhelmed. But their hyper-focus thinks that everything should be regimented. So have you worked with any folks that identify as autistic? And if not a big deal. Have you heard these stories? These stories sound familiar?
Yes. So these stories sound familiar. I would say, like, I know some people in my personal life that like do identify or are like actually have a diagnosis.
Yep.
What's interesting with clients is that maybe I'm picking up on something else, but they're maybe not quite ready to be screened. Or so I feel like we have to also tread lightly around like the diagnosis piece, right? Like somebody really needs to be ready for it.
Oh, correct.
And able to see it. So sometimes that will come up where it's like, this might be part of the struggle. But depending on what they're coming in for, right? If people are coming in, I sort of see one of two clients, right? People that are coming in just to kind of manage symptoms, and they tend to be here for, kind of a shorter time. And once their symptoms are managed, right, they go, and they may come back at some point in time or they may not. Or other people will come ready to do all the deep work to hopefully undo the symptoms and get to the root of stuff. And so for them, I'm having some interesting conversations around like, maybe we want to do some extra testing, and maybe we, want to talk to a psychologist or psychiatrist around some of these other things. So it's funny. I've recently had a conversation around that, but I think it's, it's one of those things where you have to tread so lightly, especially in adulthood, if people don't have the diagnosis yet, right? It can be very scary.
Totally.
Yep. Spence, you had any more questions or no? Because I had just one or two.
Yeah, go for it.
Earlier you mentioned, actually real quick, I'm going to make it's not a pun. It's like an ironic story. Ironic. She said that she couldn't get into chemistry class, Spencer. And that's why she became, working in this field, mental health. And now we're doing a friggin' podcast on the lessons in chemistry.
Isn't that just how it works? Always comes
really
back around.
It's like a
circle.
It's like a circle. So if I was your therapist, I would have latched on to that and held that at the end. And then I would have pushed dramatic, deep voice. And I'm like, look at you now. Look at you now.
Look at where you're
Love
at.
it.
I just thought that was pretty interesting. Like, this is what you brought to us. Yeah. And then chemistry, motherhood.
Yeah.
And then a second ago, you said there's some neurochemistry that's going on. So I love the science. Maybe that's statism in me. I like to know things about this. What's going on with the science? So, right, in this motherhood, because I'm sure hormones are everywhere. I mean, I don't know. I know a lot about the cycle when women are going through the cycle, cisgender women are going through the cycle. But the pregnancy stuff, I don't know anything about. So what happens? Is there any neurochemical changes during birth or like afterwards in this postpartum, this post-birth?
So I can speak to it from the mental health side,
Go
and
ahead.
then also say, like, for pretty much all my clients that are referred from physicians or
Yep.
midwives, like, we sign releases so that we can open this up
Awesome.
if we need to, because so often in this, in this period, right, we're trying to figure out, like, what is medical and what is actually mental health.
Yep.
So I think, the really big piece is the first 2 weeks postpartum are the baby blues. And so people are all over the place. I mean, I can remember, like, I was just crying. My husband's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Like, I'm just sad. It's not like normal sadness or grief where you can attach it to something and kind of know why you're so emotional. And so I think, I try to really forewarn, like, anybody I have that's, seeing me kind of during their first pregnancy, is let's really talk through, like, those first 2 weeks are going to be really hard and really heightened. And, the statistics are 75% of women go through the baby blues. I mean,
Wow.
I really don't know anybody personally or professionally that hasn't had that. So I'm always kind of curious where the 25% is, but evidently there are 25% of, women that don't have it. But I would say, again, it seems like most people, have something hormonally going on those first 2 weeks. And then, when we're diagnosing, we're really looking at, after those first 2 weeks, what stays, what's heightened, what maybe drops back down to baseline. Because people will come in and, be really concerned that they now have postpartum depression. And it's like, well, not necessarily. Like, let's keep an eye on this, and then we'll kind of see, on the other side of these 2 weeks, we'll kind of monitor what's coming up. And then, the other piece that I think is really important is the breastfeeding piece, because, there's, such a hormonal piece to that if you're not breastfeeding or you're not able to, right? Or if, say, you're breastfeeding for a certain amount of time and then you're dropping down your feedings. I mean, we can see how that really affects mental health as well, because sometimes a lot of people come in and they're maybe at, month 11, in their postpartum journey, and they've started weaning, and that's what's bringing up some of the emotions. And so there's this other interesting piece, that again has some sort of, hormonal medical link.
That makes
but
sense.
Also links to mental health and some of the things we see in postpartum.
Is it just the breastfeeding when it comes to, like, latching on, or is it also they can pump and then that's good enough for the hormones to stay continuously well? Good.
Yeah, pumping's interesting because it depends on the supply and the person. And I mean, there tends to be so much. I kind of joke with my clients, because I had to pump too, that it's like a full-time job. It's like you have, your baby, and maybe you're also working, and then you're dealing with the pumping and the, washing everything. And I mean, it's like
shout out to moms.
Added stressor on top of, what is it doing hormonally? And, when you're pumping, how much are you actually able to pump versus, what baby might be getting in breastfeeding. And so, yeah, there's a whole lot there. That's like a whole other podcast. Yeah. Breastfeeding, pumping,
the feed,
bottle feeding, formula feeding.
Yeah. Okay.
Special formula.
Just so much that goes into motherhood just in general. It's a lot. And then she's doing it without a partner. Right. You can't even imagine, So they said, "You got anyone?" Well, I guess we'll wait to the scene. She said, "I got a dog." Jesus. Poor girl. Interesting. Spence, I was joke intrusive thoughts. So this is a funny one. Then I'll kick it back to Spence, because then I'm done. She said, it's 75% have the baby blues, and the other 25%. I'm like, damn, who's the other 25%? I said, those are the ones that believe in Jesus Christ. I'm joking, completely joking, sarcastic. Spencer's like, no. The rest of them sinners.
Here, let me throw this cap over to you.
Yeah.
Here. Let me throw that to you.
But that's just, I thought it was, intrusive thought. I thought it was going to be funny. But the thing is, you're probably right. It's probably majority of. But the question is, who the hell is that 25%? I don't know. Those are the ones that just bottle it up. I thought immediately the Christianity joke, because a lot of the clients that I work with, deeply Christian, also, we're going to bottle everything up. We're just going to pray on it. Everything's fine. So the joke actually had meaning to it, is because I have a lot of clients who just internalize and suffocate. Just saying.
I don't like how you have to give meaning to your joke by saying, this joke has some meaning, folks. Why aren't you laughing?
No.
Yeah. Well, now we understand it.
Yeah. I would love for you to get on stage and just be like, hey, folks, why aren't you laughing? This is actually pretty meaningful stuff.
Hey, there's always a method to the madness. There's always chemistry in it.
Anyways, let's get into the show.
I'm done.
So, lessons of chemistry. So I'm gonna actually, Heidi, would you give a brief kind of like, what is the show about?
Sure. So Lessons in Chemistry is about a like a brilliant chemist who loses her partner and finds out she's pregnant with his child, and has to go through birth, postpartum, and raising this girl on her own, while also trying to figure out a way to work and bring in some money and have some connection and support to other people.
Right. And so this show is set in the 1950s. And so I'm not going to say, we have come a long way, I think, as just like society, and when it comes to just medical terms and just kind of saying like, oh, we can have specialists and this, and this, and you're not just like crazy or whatever, right? But in the first scene that we watch, she's at the doctor's office. I believe she found out she's pregnant through the doctor, right? And just getting like a checkup or something like that. Or
she actually knew, because she's in the like chemistry field, so she didn't actually take a pregnancy test, but knew like biologically that she was pregnant.
She went to labs and it was just like, God.
Did her own test.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but also trusted her body to a point, right? So it was like that place of, I felt like it was going to take care of itself. Like my body was just going to do what it needed to do without medical intervention. But then at some point decides like, oh, maybe I should actually go in and see a doctor and confirm everything.
Yeah. So at that point, I thought she was talking about having an abortion. I didn't think that she was going there to make sure it was healthy. I thought she didn't want to have the child from that scene, but that's not what it was. She was going there to make sure the child was good.
Yeah, it's interesting because she was a lot in denial, I think, because of the grief and because she didn't want to get married or have kids. So I think it was like the grief kind of buffered her to a point, but again, I think because it took place in the 50s and, there was an attachment to her lost partner, that my impression from reading the book and seeing the show was that she was just kind of going through the motions, trusting her body, and was going to have this baby on her own. But other people may have other opinions.
Can you imagine though, having a baby on your own and you're a chemist in the 50s? I mean, women don't have these jobs probably anyways. I mean, we're not far from like the women's right to vote and this type of things. And she's got a chemistry, she's doing her thing. And then now your partner now a kid. People can't even have kids these days with jobs and without, it's wild. Yeah. Do you know if this was based at all on somewhat of a true story or no, the book at all or no?
I don't think so. I think it's purely fiction, but I
guarantee it's happened. There's no way it hasn't happened. Yeah.
Well, and in another scene, she was actually fired from, like, she was doing work with her because her partner was also a chemist. So they were doing work together. And then when he died, she got demoted. And then when they found out she was pregnant, they fired her. And then she actually ends up using chemistry to cook and ends up with a cooking show. And so,
oh, wow.
Whole other,
go.
whole other piece. So, but yeah, so she's a working mom all the way through, though, a working single mom.
Working mom. And that first scene, they talked about Argo, or what was that? Was that rowing or something? What was that exercise they were talking about?
Yeah. So her partner was a rower and was trying to get her into it, and he had built a rowing machine for exercise. And so this doctor, right, is impressed that she's exercising through her pregnancy. And then I loved the very last part of that scene, how like her prescription is, I'll see you in a year so that you can come row with us. Like you'll have some social support and row with us once you've had your baby and had some time to heal. So.
And it's safe to exercise while pregnant, correct?
That's my understanding.
I'm just making sure, we ain't medical doctors here,
Hey,
Yeah, none of us are doctors. But
I'm a 1950s doctor. I have much knowledge of them at this point.
Sure.
Like, I don't know.
You might be pregnant.
Yeah,
it could be a tumor.
Yeah, I mean, my doctor with my pregnancies allowed me to, because I had exercised before.
Okay.
Getting pregnant. So, my understanding is that a lot of practitioners kind of have you do what you're doing. So they don't want you to start like adding something big in if you aren't already doing it.
Okay. And you said you had a 19 and a 15-year-old?
No. Oh, she's almost 19. Yeah, almost 18. 19. But she's like a month old.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mom,
close to being 19.
Heidi's a mom, you don't look a day over 25. You must have been a teen mom,
Oh, you guys are very sweet. Thank you.
Must have been
what a compliment. I was a teen
I'm going to
mother.
come back on this show to get more compliments.
Oh my God, my blood pressure almost passed out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, let's get to the second scene. I'm embarrassed with Spencer.
God damn it. So in the next scene, Brie Larson's character wakes up in a hospital bed. Apparently she was drugged after or while giving birth, which she did not agree to at all. And then, of course, the nurse is just being very passive aggressive. And just like, well, you should name your kid whatever you're feeling. And she says, mad. Oh, like Madeline? No. Mad. Just mad. Because she did not give any consent to being drugged. So I kind of want to get to know, are we still seeing a lot of these kind of just are we seeing these things in any of your clients, or did you go through any of these things with your childbirth at all, where you did not give consent to certain medical things and they were still put on you even though you did not give consent at all? And how did that affect you or your clients, if so?
Good question.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great question. I definitely hear stories around that where things happen. And I think it's often when they're not explained that's kind of when we get that trauma piece in there. And that was part of what happened, like, for me with my daughter. So my first birth was, I'm thinking it's a routine labor. And then all of a sudden, all these people were in the room, and it was terrifying. And I remember my husband and I looked at each other like, what is going on? And it turned out everything was fine, but they were prepping for an emergency C-section.
Okay.
So it was sort of like, if we don't get baby out now, you're going down the hall with all these people and we're doing an emergency C-section, but nobody told us what was happening. It was just like all these people ended up in the room. And all of these years later, right? Like she's almost 19, like my husband and I still talk about like how traumatic that was for both of us. And I think that's an important piece too. Like when you're talking about birth trauma and partners are often in the room now, right? Is that it's not just traumatic for the woman going through this. It's so traumatic for the partners being there and watching. And so I think it's often the bigger piece is not being informed around what's going on. Now, that being said, I mean, definitely have clients that have had, like actual traumatic births where, they could have died or their baby could have died, right? So it's sort of that same continuum, right? Is it that big T or little T, and you get to define, for yourself, right? Like, where does it actually fall on here? Like, how scary was it? But I think, so often, with kind of the smaller T traumas, it's still traumatic, but often it's because you don't have the education around what's going on. And then, the big T traumas, right? It's sort of like anybody would look in and be like, wow, that person almost died. Of course, that's traumatic. But, it's again, still on the same continuum that we're looking at, like, where does it fall for you in here? And also, where does it fall for your partner? Sometimes partners are more traumatized, right? Like, I have a lot of people that come in and say, like, I'm really concerned about my partner because, they were there, but maybe I was passed out or put under, right? While they're doing surgery or something else. So yeah, so there's a whole gamut of stories in there, but I thought, this was depicted really well, right? It's like she wakes up and, and again, it's in the 50s. Right. So this, I think, was commonplace, right? Like, oh, you're gonna have a baby, we'll just put you under and here's your baby.
Boom, boom, boom.
But she didn't want that.
Nope.
Yeah, she didn't want to be put under.
What are those? I have no idea.
Yeah. Informed consent? What?
Yeah.
What?
It makes me think about I had a client and he was seeing me. Partner was seeing me. The mother wasn't seeing anyone. They were fine. They weren't fine, but she had the cysts, and the cysts were, large. It took out, they said, a 2-liter taken out of her.
Oh.
And size of a 2-liter. And they said, hey man, if you don't have this baby soon, they're in college. If you don't have this baby within the next year or so, you're probably never going to have a baby as a married couple. So imagine getting ready to graduate as a college student, and then you're like, hey, you're doing this now or never. And so they decided to have a baby. He came in to see me because he thought his wife was going to die from this cyst on her ovaries, and that was like eating away at things.
Wow.
And then he's excited. We're happy. We did it. And then he said, now, as the doctor said, we either do this now, we're never having a kid. And I was like, oh my God. So then they went through trying to have a kid, and it's not happening, and it's not happening, and it's not happening. And he's not getting a job, and things are getting heavier, right? And this is a couple year ordeal, me working with this awesome boy. And they have the kid. They get pregnant. Everybody's freaking out the whole time, anxious that, something was going to happen. So, and that anxiety with the partner was real. And I say, hey man, you need to tell your wife. You need to tell your wife that you're seeing me, that you're working on stuff. No, I don't want to put it on her. I don't want her to worry about me. Just needs to take care of herself. So he never tells her, which is fine. A year or so goes by, right? He emails me, gives me a gift, awesome gift. And he said, the baby's fine. My wife's fine, right? And that was magnificent. So the reason why I bring this up is because, I work with a lot of men too. Not as high as rate as women that I work with, but I work with a lot of men. And it's traumatic for everyone, even the before birth. So one of my best friends, Spencer hates when I do it, Lil Mike.
Yeah, that's his name right now.
Right now. Well,
when the podcast starts off, it's a different name.
It's Black Mike.
There it is. There it is. Two descriptions, either short or black. I don't know. I was like, are these two different people? Nope, same person.
Same guy. So it's messed up. They told him and his wife, they've already had, I'm not going to get that. There was already complication with the previous birth. So this one, this is public knowledge, so I can share this one. They say, hey man, there's some defects going on with the baby. You probably need to terminate the pregnancy. And then they went and got another opinion, right? And it's like, from the University of Michigan, they decide to have the baby. Baby comes out, perfectly fine. Perfectly fine, no complications. Doctors are like, it's a miracle, because there should have been tons of stuff with the neurology in their brain. Let me choke back these emotions real quick. There we go. So I got to see the baby. Big ol' eyes, happy, smiling, right? It's magnificent. Magnificent. There's the second child, right? And it was magnificent because they already had complications with the previous kid that didn't make it. So to see the baby is crazy. So can you imagine the trauma and the anxiety that he walks around with now? And this is right, a very strong, engineered, neurodivergent black male. He ain't talking to no one about nothing. Didn't tell me about this until afterwards.
Wow.
And I said, how come you didn't text me? I said, what about that text I sent you a while ago? He said, I still ain't responded to your text since November. Hey, you asshole. I'm your one of your you were I was gonna be the godfather of this kid. You didn't even text me. So a lot of men won't say anything. A lot of black and brown men ain't gonna say anything. So I love that you brought up the partners because a lot of them will be suffering. I know we're focusing on women. But this stuff affects everyone. No one this is your child.
Well, and I think there are important stats here. I mean, when you're looking at mental health issues during the perinatal period, so pregnancy, postpartum for women, it's 1 in 5 that we know of, right?
Yeah.
So the people that are actually, that we know of and, are either reaching out for support, right? Or putting it on
1 in 5 prenatal
tests and stuff. But for men, it's 1 in 10, which I find very interesting. Right. So to me, that's also a pretty high number.
Yep.
Right. I mean, it's not as high as women. But that there's also a piece, right? Like if mom is struggling, that often dad is struggling too.
Yep.
Right. So they can kind of be playing off each other. But sometimes, like I had a client, I saw her during pregnancy, and then she was actually good in postpartum. And she said, I think my husband has postpartum depression. So let's get him screened and get him some help.
Yep.
So sometimes we see it kind of flip-flop in there too. But so 1 in 10 men, right, have some sort of mental health, something
I
going
guarantee
on,
it's higher. I guarantee
during
it's harder. We're just
pregnancy,
we're not getting a secret. Hopefully this podcast will
we
help a
don't
few
get
dudes
everybody.
to go talk. You don't have to sit there and suffer. You don't want to be a burden to your partner. Go talk to some big boy like me, or you can talk to a woman identified client. Go talk to someone, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, the scene, I get it. That trauma and all the medical trauma, that makes sense. Little T, big T, it's all terrible.
Yeah.
Yep. That third scene I thought was awesome. I think I want to do some real good talking in this third scene here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So third scene, is after she had the baby, brought the baby home. Baby starts crying. And she does not know really kind of what to do in this situation, right? She's looking at it through a chemist's view. She's looking at it as a science. You only do it this way or this way. That's it. And so then she sees her neighbor, and they're playing with her kids, looks happy. So she's like, well, I'm going to go over there and see what the hell I need to do if I can be that happy. Goes over there, and her neighbor instantly sees that she is struggling, having a hard time with the baby. And then, of course, as she goes in there, she's having having some friends over. And the friends are like, what the fuck? Now we got to deal with a crying baby. We just wanted to play cards or something, We just wanted to we want to talk, gossip, play cards, drink some root beers. I don't know. All that fun stuff. And then goes over, and then they get to talking, and neighbor just kind of tells her like, hey, this is not like a science project. Like you're really smart, but you're dumb. Which I feel like we've all met those people in our lives.
So I'm that person. Hello.
I know.
I know.
I looked right at you.
I know. I got postpartum.
He had a little potato. Just a little potato.
I named him Babylon. I couldn't think of nothing.
That's Babylon. What?
I couldn't think of nothing.
Anyway, having this conversation, and she's pretty much breaking down like, hey, you've been having these thoughts, these negative thoughts, like, hey,
what is it?
I want to get rid of my baby. I want to get rid of her. Probably some other things in there as well that maybe she didn't want to bring up too. And then, and then of course the neighbor kind of validates her feelings by going like, hey, everyone's kind of felt this way at least once or twice in their life. That's just how, okay. Yep. Bye, Winnie. Bye. For people on the podcast side, Nash just threw away Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah. So this is your baby.
Uh-oh. There it goes. There it goes. Don't need that anymore.
Every
That's what
mother's
I say.
dream right there. Happy Mother's Day.
Oh my God. Happy Mother's Day.
I decided to keep you, you son of a bitch.
Oh my God. All right. Anyway, so in this scene, we're definitely seeing that postpartum, especially for the fact that she cannot really connect with her baby. She can't get it to stop crying. Also, can't get her to feed as well. There's two things that you just talked about being a part of like postpartum and just how it's affecting her, and it's affecting her mental health as well. She's really going down, and and I think the baby can also sense that as well, because with all that crying, I mean, even though babies, even like some animals also, they can feel your feelings.
Yep.
They can feel them, and then they kind of go off of that and go away. But what made you want to do this scene, and just kind of what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really beautifully showed, right, the heightened emotions, the intrusive thoughts being, really big one. I think we hear, again, when we talk about postpartum, we think about postpartum depression, and postpartum anxiety is also, tends to show up really frequently, and I don't think it's talked about as much. And really quick, like the statistics on intrusive thoughts during the postpartum period are that 93% of women have intrusive thoughts. Again, I always wonder about like, where's the 7%? I don't know what's going on with them.
Jesus.
But well, I don't know. Maybe Naz knows.
That's not it. That is not it.
You sure? I don't know.
That's not our faith. 93%. That's wild.
93%. And I think what's interesting is we're looking at like a mother's distress level around it, right? Because if you have these intrusive thoughts, but you can kind of see it, and again, like those, some of these techniques we use as therapists, right? Like you just see it and you can kind of float it away on a cloud, like, okay, that's not a big deal. Like I'm not gonna drop my baby or fall down the stairs with my baby, or but so often like a mom's distress level is high around the intrusive thoughts because we think it means something.
Correct.
So if I'm having these thoughts, it must mean I'm a bad mom. I don't care about my kid. I don't love my kid. I don't want to be a mom. Right. And then we see these spirals that we so often see in anxiety. Right. And so I think this scene is so beautiful, right? Because she's like, I'm doing all the structured things that I can be doing. And it's like, but what she really needed was the human connection, and for somebody to validate and normalize that we've all been there.
Yep.
And you're okay, and you're going to get through this. And that these thoughts, again, if we can just kind of float them away and not get too attached to them, we're going to bring down your distress level and hopefully get you out of the anxiety cycle. So I just felt like it's so beautifully portrayed, like the anxiety that shows up like so often with depression in postpartum. It's like you can see both in that scene, like with, the crying and kind of this disconnection with her baby. And then that probably brings us into the last scene, but
let's stick here for a second. So I'm gonna pitch it over to autism, because I have this privilege to, because I have this privilege to work at one of the major universities in America, one of the best STEM and science related schools in America, let alone the world, is chemistry. A lot of neurodivergent, a lot of autistic people in chemistry. So you mean to tell me this is a book about chemists and they ain't autistic? So I'm just saying. Yeah, I ain't met a chemist that hasn't been autistic yet. So,
got him.
Or a physicist. So I'm looking at this woman that's very specific and itemized. Maybe many of you would refute this and say she's just highly intelligent and maybe just likes things oriented in a certain way because she's so professional and successful that you have to be some type of obsessive compulsive. I agree with that. For a lot of folks that get master's degrees, PhD, you have to be some type of obsessed to get a master's or PhD, some level of anxiety that propels you to do well, that helps your executive functioning get things done. But when we go into the chemistry field, we start to see a lot of neurodivergence, and all my master's and PhD students will tell you, oh yeah, the whole field. And so I look at her character being very itemized. I'm timing, doing all this. We could say it's a neurotypical mother that's just very anxious. She's doing her best. She's reading all the literature like all my other homegirls are doing, right? They're reading all the literature. They're doing everything like the readings say, but nothing's working. So hence comes, I'm a piece of shit. I'm doing it all wrong. My child hates me. I'm a bad mother. Not to mention probably the previous traumas that I know many of my women feel from their own parents. I'm just like my parent. Or, maybe they couldn't connect with me, so I'm not going to be able to connect with my kiddo. So not only is it the previous baggage, but then it's also maybe the neural spiciness. And then it just compounds. And now you're just completely freaked out. And now you're at a loss. And then you have an intrusive spike. I just wish the kid would shut up. I just want the kid to shut up, to go away. Maybe not I want the kid to die, but I just want to not exist, or maybe the kid not exist. Not die, but not exist. And so I'll talk to my many of my clients that are autistic about the difference in that, and how so many of my kiddos will get hospitalized, but they're not actually legit suicidal, going to harm themselves. It's the not wanting, being overstimulated, being overwhelmed, not wanting to exist. Can you imagine being someone like me, Spence, that gets overwhelmed? I was playing video games the other day. People were screaming and playing music. I literally had a panic attack afterwards. Can't imagine when a baby's screaming nonstop and you can't get it to be quiet. You can't get it to soothe. How big of a piece of shit you would feel like, and how freaked out you would be.
Right.
And I have many women that I work with that are on the spectrum. And they're like, there's no way I can have a kid. There's no way. There's no way I can do it. Why? Maybe if you have a partner, this, that. There's like, no, there's no way. And I said, that's completely fine. So then we talk about societal pressures to have kids and all that stuff, and the shame and guilt, being a woman with not a child or a heteronormative relationship. So this scene, not only is she like the depression, overwhelmed, but it just made me think of a young individual overstimulated. Yeah. Looking for answers, which is magnificent because you said the validation. But then Spence, remember, this is 1950s, like you said, and her neighbor's a black woman. There's some weird dynamics there too now, because they're in a more affluent area. 1950s, she goes to a black lady's house. All these black ladies like, what the hell? White lady coming in. White women just go anywhere in America.
Oh, let's see. You think we just gonna know exactly how to treat your white baby?
I'm just gonna take care of your white baby. Oh, okay. I laughed at that scene because the women there were like,
tell her to leave.
Can't do that in the 50s. Come here, baby. Come here, baby.
Come on, baby.
Come on, baby.
We'll help you.
So I love that because it's showing this very strong, independent, and highly intelligent black woman. But also it shows the softness in here too. So we always see race and we always say that, the black women can take it. Hispanic, Latinx, Latina can take it. They're strong. And it shows this white woman like cowardly. So you see this even in the movie that's showing you that the white woman needs to be cared for and nurtured, but it always shows the other folks very strong. And why am I making this point? Because she's like, oh no, I felt the same way too. I was overwhelmed and overstimulated. I was sad. I was suicidal. I was a little homicidal. And so finally we get to see that softness in some other characters instead of like, we're dominant, we're strong. Yeah. And that's what leads a lot of black and brown women, which has high mortality rates when we go into the hospitals, or they go into the hospitals, or childbirth, because the care is poor, which leads into that medical trauma that you talked about, kind of like my friend went through as well. So this scene hit on a couple different things for me, Spence. Autism, motherhood, some racial stuff too. I think anyone listening or watching this podcast to know that intrusive thoughts, that's all they are. I got intrusive thoughts all the time. I was having intrusive thoughts when I was a young boy because the anger and hostility that was going on, right? My family being stripped from me and my life being taken technically in some ways and their life's given. My father, the sacrifice. Another story for a different day. So I grew up with these intrusive thoughts all the time. I thought I was crazy as shit. Legitimately, I thought I was like a serial killer or something. I still could be. Yeah.
Debatable.
Yeah, no, they ain't found them yet. Yeah, no.
Don't look in the backyard.
Why you got all these rose bushes? You got apple tree, motherfucker? Damn.
Apple tree. Why is there an ear on this one? That doesn't make sense.
I'll call that one Patricia.
Yep. Oh my god.
Stop. So intrusive thoughts are terrifying, and it makes most of my clients think that they're legit horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot that have intrusive thoughts, like maybe with the kid or other people, they'll be like, I need to kill myself before I hurt anyone else. That's how crazy it could get.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see these moms being like, hey, it's fine. I thought about getting rid of my kid once a day, once a week. And she's like, oh shit, okay. And what's funny is, I'm sure you know this too, Heidi. I'm sure you've said it. Everyone will be like, hey, you want to borrow kids for a week? People will say it to you all the time. Want to borrow kids? I was like, oh, I'll take them. Like, they're for real serious.
Yeah.
They never let me take them because I want them too bad.
You gotta play it cool, man. You gotta play it cool. Don't want them too much. Just be like, I don't know, maybe.
I know. I'm gonna have them all. Why they all got helmets and football pads on? Shut up.
Oh, we getting them ready for the future.
The little giants and shit.
The little giants. Shout out Rick Moranis.
So I'm gonna do a pivot. Heidi, how often did you think about getting rid of your kids?
Oh my god.
And not an intrusive bad way, just maybe giving them to like some family members, the next door lady.
Yeah. I mean, I will normalize it for everybody. When you feel overwhelmed, you do wonder, like, gosh, could my neighbor take them for an afternoon?
An hour.
In-laws, parents take them for a week and just give us a break. Especially in the early days, because there's no break in there. I mean, you're not sleeping. Your kid is eating every 2 to 3 hours. I mean, it's every day is Groundhog Day, but you're just in survival mode. And so it's like, how do we normalize, right? That like especially those early days of postpartum are so hard for every single one of us.
Yep. I can't imagine. Question. The clients that you see,
Yes.
Do most of them have good support systems, or a lot of them are coming in with not really good support systems, right? They got a neighbor and a dog.
Yeah, I would say the neighbor and the dog is one extreme, right? And I would say most people, the other extreme, right, would be kind of full support, right?
Yep.
Good family, good friends,
Yep.
good neighbors.
Aunts, uncles,
I would say
grandparents.
I would say most people probably fall in the middle, where they have some support. And especially post-COVID, it's kind of interesting because I would say, some of the newer struggles are maybe around friendships.
Yes.
And, finding other moms or other new moms that relate to the stage that people are in. And so, so even if, they have family support, like there's often an area that's kind of lacking. So it's like if people have, good friend support, or good partner support, then they're maybe lacking somewhere else. So I would say probably the ones that have full support everywhere also aren't coming in for therapy.
Yeah, because they got it.
Right, is like, yeah, because they have it. I mean, I can remember, like, I used to go do presentations for like new mom support groups, and I kind of look around like they're good. Like, we talk about self-care and stuff, but they're good because they're coming to this group. Like, they have all their people here. So it's sort of like, as long as you keep coming here and you have, mom support and, babies and kids around the same age, like, you have an outlet. And as long as you, I think, have at least one of those, then people are often, doing at least okay, maybe not thriving, but they're at least, they have some support.
A little bit better than just existing. How does one find connection like this? How does one find new mom support groups? How does one find
Yeah.
help, care? Because you said community, and that's what she needed. How does one find it?
Yeah,
You go on the internet?
community's
What do you do?
huge. I would say Postpartum Support International has been really great as far as
Okay.
either virtual groups that people can join, or they'll try to hook people up locally. A lot of the hospitals I've seen, like will also have postpartum groups for new moms. As far as therapy, Postpartum Support International also has like a therapist provider directory.
Okay.
And so then you can find people like me that actually have the certification. And so it's like the extra training for pregnant and postpartum therapy.
And you have a Psychology Today profile too, correct or no? Or you used to?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I am on there too. Yeah, that's a good one too.
And is postpartum a box that you can segregate clients by issues? I would assume it is, but I don't know.
Yes. That's been a newer one that I've
They
seen.
added.
Or maybe that people are using now, maybe is a better way.
They
of
just
saying it.
updated
But
the
yeah,
website recently because they just added
did
autism in
they?
there for the first fucking time. They had
Oh,
Asperger's in there, right?
really?
The old term. They didn't have autism in there until like a month ago.
No.
Really? Okay, I'll have to go on there. Yeah, so they have I think it's pregnancy, postpartum, or maybe it's just pregnancy and postpartum.
Okay.
I
That's
want to
good
say
to
there
know.
was a third thing, but I can't remember. Yeah, so they do have a category.
Okay. Couple resources for folks. Just wanted to make sure that we were giving resources too.
Yeah, always good.
What we got in this last scene about?
Yeah.
So we finally have a happy moment.
She kept a baby.
Well,
Yes.
yeah. It's a little too late now. So she had a baby, and then she was talking about her husband / baby daddy, and was talking about how he used to love jazz and how he used to dance. Yep, just like that, Nas, up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like the autistic dance right there. It's just
I just put my heart and soul into the dance. How dare you?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Big ass head moving up and down. Big old potato. And then makes her baby laugh. Makes the baby laugh, and then calls up her neighbor to tell her that her baby laughed and that how her baby's like the smartest person ever. Smartest person alive. That's it. I think every parent probably has all those moments where they have like one moment of like, hey, my kid's the smartest child alive after it just burped. And you're like, all right,
Yeah.
cool.
That's a good shit right there. That's a smart shit.
That's the smartest shit I've ever seen. Let me tell you. I struggle. That baby don't
I
struggle.
Jesus. You struggle with the pooping or the wiping?
Don't worry about
it.
Okay. That's for me to know in my underwear to find out. Anyways. It's a great scene because we finally get that happy moment
Yes.
as a parent of just being like, hey, I'm actually connected with my kid. I can actually make my kid laugh and feel good instead of, just crying and, possibly thinking that you make them feel bad instead. Let's get both your thoughts on this scene. What'd you think?
Yeah,
Heidi?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Yeah.
So I love that, the scene was coming off of a memory of her husband, and she had been, in this grief fog, and, there were a lot of depressive symptoms for such a long time, and that she could actually tap into a happy memory of, dancing with him and then share it with her baby. And then her baby, right, is at the stage where she can laugh and connect with her mom and vice versa. So just very, very heartfelt. And I love that. And then she called her friend, right, to be able to share, like, that it isn't all doom and gloom, like that there are these pockets of connection and her, really coming out of some of her postpartum struggles.
I would love to be in that moment as a therapist, or you, Heidi, when they call you up or they email you or they sit down the following week and they're like, hey, I finally freaking did it. They smiled. We're having a good, finally feel like a competent mother. You see them that they connected. I would love to be in your shoes to see that moment for them, because I guarantee you they'd laugh with you and joyful, but I guarantee you they would be crying too in that session because it finally happened. So they're probably going to cry out of happiness. What is it like to be in that situation where you get to see them get a win?
Well, I think what's interesting, because it's also online sessions, is sometimes I get to see those with them, right? So I can have somebody talking about the struggle and then baby will do something, right? Like baby will, laugh or smile or giggle or, and then, and that you can see the connection on screen between mom and baby. I mean, it's right there.
Yeah.
And so what's also nice, right, is like when people are coming in and they're struggling, even, if their baby isn't with them that session, like sometimes we can go back and be like, but remember the last session we had and you guys had that great eye contact and, you were smiling at each other, right? Like the connection is there.
Yes.
And I can validate that for you as well if you're having trouble internally doing it right now, because I actually visually saw it.
I saw it
in that moment with the two of you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like they're flawed thinking or maybe they remembered it incorrectly. This is factual. This isn't some affirmation. I'm just saying because I'm being nice because you're paying me. I'm just stating facts. You and the baby are having a good time and you're laughing, you're smiling, connecting. It's there. It can happen. You can replicate it.
Yeah.
You just got to sleep. you got to find a way to go to sleep.
Nah, who needs that?
You don't need it.
Oh, and that's a huge one, right? I mean, it's like that link between sleep and anxiety, right? So sleep goes down, anxiety goes up. And we see that so much in early postpartum, right? So people aren't sleeping. And then the next day, really high anxiety.
Yeah. I mean, take my college students. So they're not sleeping because they're grinding on exams and studying and studying and studying. Well, their ability to have empathy goes away. They're more irritable. They're more angry. They're more frustrated. And you see that impact their relationships over a long period of time. Affects a lot of relationships. Specifically, though, with some of my students that are neurodivergent, they keep going and going and going so long. They're not sleeping 2-3 days in a row, maybe a couple hours here and there. They could go into psychosis. So, right, I have clients who be like, hey, man, I'm hearing something. I'm like, who is it? You hear him now? You better not kill me in my goddamn office. Goddamn, you better get out of here. I'm teasing right there. But like the sleep is a big. So I can't even imagine being a parent, being a neurotypical or neurodivergent individual, being a parent, and how important sleep is. And so having that good community has to mean a lot to just get a little bit of respite. I have some friends that have twins. So we had a current person on the podcast that had twins. She's like, Nas, I don't even know what the fuck's going on. And she's a therapist and she's like, I'm losing my beans. I've had some coworkers that are therapists that had twins. He's like, Nas, I didn't sleep for like the first 2 years. Because as soon as you change one, now you got to change the other one.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it.
Do you have any clients as we wrap up here? Did you have any clients with twins? Yeah.
Yeah. I have clients with twins. I have my two best friends from college, both have twins.
Wow.
And it's funny, they're around the same age as my son. And so we used to joke, like when I was struggling with my son, I'm like, oh, but you two have two of these. So I'm good.
Yeah. I'm fine.
Yeah, we're good.
Don't you worry about me.
Yeah. Yeah. I can validate this is hard. And I know it's definitely hard over there. I can validate that
for sure.
too.
He was just happy to see her happy, even though the dancing was weird. It's just happy to see someone get a win.
Yeah.
And I like how she calls up her friend or her neighbor, because I think thinks she's her friend, but I don't know if the black woman thinks that she's her friend.
Yeah, it's a one-sided friendship.
One-sided. But it reminds me of my bestie Colin, and he'll put me on Instagram and said, "Look, she's saying car," and I don't know what to tell you, man. That she just mumbled some shit that was not car. He said, look, she can put the ball in the hoop. And then I'm like, so she gonna move or she just gonna sit there?
I swear she did like a second ago.
He's like, I swear she did it, man. And he literally would be like, dude, you're embarrassing me, girl. Move. And she just sits there and looks at me. It's because she gets distracted with the phone. So my big old head, potato head, gets what part on the phone. Yeah, she forgets everything. You see this face? This is a traumatizing face.
Yeah, it's just like,
The baby's like, who the hell is this?
Why is a potato talking? I don't get it. Daddy, make the potato stop.
Why do we keep watching Toy Story over and over?
It's like, we get it. Your toys that talk. Jesus.
He calls me in legit ecstasy every time when she does something new. And so he's like, look. She can, well, you're supposed to do more like this in sign language, but she'll do it like this.
Yeah.
And he's like, look at her, right? She'll be eating or whatever. She just did it yesterday. She's got her own play sets. She can put things into this little Target basket that they got, and she'll just go shopping around the house. I mean, he's like, you got to see it. He sends me videos nonstop all day, every day. And I'm pretty much the only person he talks to for the last like 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that he sends me these images is magnificent. You know, I don't care. Send them to me. It's got to be awesome to be a parent to get those wins. Yeah. She can't talk that good yet at a year and a half, but she knows when you tell her something, she knows. Go get the ball, go get the car, go get your books, right? I mean, she'll go get it and then she'll bring it to you and then she'll run away.
That's sweet.
I'm done with this. So, Spence, you got any questions for her as we're wrapping up here?
I think we're good.
So for Heidi, for moms, new parents, right, going out there struggling with postpartum or just struggling with prenatal care, what's your advice to them? What do you want to say to the humans listening today?
Yeah. I would say the first thing is, usually OB-GYNs, midwives, and now even pediatricians are screening new moms.
Okay.
Especially for postpartum depression, is to be honest on there with like really how you're doing.
Yep.
Because that's kind of the first place that we can catch people. And then, if you're honest on there and there are some concerns and you really are struggling, then the hope is that that one of these providers that you already trust can get you in to see a therapist, or sometimes, maybe you start with a psychiatrist if they're feeling like medication might be warranted, but to get you seen by somebody that can be getting you feeling better quicker so that, so that you don't have regrets around this time being stolen because you weren't feeling like yourself.
Yep. There you go. Be honest. You're right. Because a lot of folks will be like, everything's fine. How you doing? Fine. You sure?
Yeah.
I saw you shaking that baby earlier in the waiting room. You sure you're good?
Oh my God.
No, but you're for real. Be honest. I just want to tell the moms out there, don't let your intrusive thoughts lie to you and fool you thinking that you're a bad mother or you'll be like the previous parents that you had. You write your own book, you write your own story. Continue to be you, continue to be the awesome person that you are. Your thoughts don't mean that they're real. They're real actions. They're just things that come in there, especially when our hormonal levels are off, serotonin's off. You got this. You can do it. Much love. And if you need more help or support, those of you that listen to the podcast, we're going to have a bunch of resources in for folks that Heidi talked about today. They'll be linked in almost every place where this podcast is seen. Okay. Take us out, Spence.
Thank you, Heidi, for coming on. Any plugs before we leave the day?
Oh,
for you.
How about my website? Oh, yeah. So HeidiMcBain.com, and I have information on therapy, coaching. I also have courses. So
okay.
If you'd rather take an online course, I have pregnancy and postpartum online courses that you can
Okay.
check out on there, and it's HeidiMcBain.com.
Any new stuff coming up? Any new stuff, new programs, new talking engagements?
Yeah, I do a lot of blogging. So I have a weekly blog that comes out. So typically something motherhood related, sometimes other stuff, a lot of times depending on what's going on in my life. If I have some big transition, or something going on, I'll maybe write about that. Yes.
Anonymous.
But yeah, I would say that the courses are kind of the newer thing, because not everyone wants therapy and coaching right away. So
well, I'll be sure to link that in the YouTube for folks.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Awesome. Well, thank you once again, Heidi, for coming on. Happy Mother's Day once again.
Thanks so much.
Of course. And with that, I'm Spencer. That's Nas, Different Spectrums Podcast.
All right, everyone. Much love, and remember, take care of yourselves.
Or don't.
That's completely up to you. Peace.